In this video, we're going to talk about how you can persist data to local storage. So persisting data to local storage is important because you want to make sure that none of the edits that a user makes while they're disconnected are lost if the device is turned off or the device loses power before the user has a chance to synchronize the data. So what we have here is a UX component with a list control based on the Northwind customer table. We have a search part for the list control, and the list is set to delay populate until there's an active search. And then over here you can see we have a detail view. So I'm going to go here and type in, say, some search criteria, USA. And now I'm going to go to a couple of these rows here and make some edits. So let's go change this to make an edit over there, and then we'll go and make an edit over there, and then we'll go and make an edit over there and save it. But you can see that we've not yet synchronized the data, so these edits now are just local edits that are stored in the list. So if I were to simulate the device losing power now by exiting the component and then rerunning it, you'll see that these three edits that have not yet been synchronized will be lost. So if I go back to design mode now and then go back into working preview, I see that there's no data over there anymore and all the edits will be lost. So if I bring back in the USA, I'll see that there are no pending edits. So now let's go turn on persisting the list data to local storage. So I'm going to go now to the builder and switch over here to list properties, and then I'm going to go and choose this option here called persist data to local storage. So this is going to, every time I retrieve data from the server into the list, it's going to store that, and it's also going to store all of my pending edits as well. And then I'm going to go over to the UX properties and go down to the local storage section. And here I can specify that when the component is loaded, if there is any data in local storage, I want to restore it. So I'm going to say restore data from local storage, and I'd also like to persist my variables. So I'm going to go there and say persist variables, and then also restore variables. Now when you put stuff into local storage, you can use a namespace so that all of the data in local storage is grouped in a single namespace. And so there's a default namespace that you can use that is based on a GUID that is assigned to the UX component. But I'm going to go here and type in, say, demo1 as my namespace for local storage. I can also give the namespace a description, and which is useful. Now I also want to point out that local storage is stored in the browser itself, but when you're working in working preview, seeing what's in the browser's local storage is a little tricky. So there's an option when you're working in working preview of actually storing not to local storage but to the local file system, and the benefit of that is that you can then just simply go into those files that are in the folder that you specify here and actually see what data is in those files. So this is just a debugging tool for use when you're in working preview, but I'm going to go here and switch back to the browser. So let's save this now and now go back to working preview. So I'm going to start out by doing my search. I'll type in, say, USA, and then click the search button to retrieve a certain number of records. And now you can see that if I exit the application and then restart it, basically all of the data that I previously retrieved is automatically restored from local storage. So let's pause now and pick this up in the next video. So we're continuing now our discussion on local storage. Now let's go ahead and make some edits to the data here. So I'm going to just go there and edit that value over there, and then edit that value and that value, and then go here and edit that value and that value. So you can see now that we have three rows that have edited data, but the data has not yet been synchronized with the server. And I'm going to simulate again the application terminating because of perhaps power loss, or simply the user closed the browser down. Could be any number of reasons as to why the application terminates. So I'm going to terminate the application and then reload it. And now you can see that what's happened is we've automatically retrieved the data from local storage, and all of our pending edits are there. So none of my edits have been lost, and now I can just simply go ahead here and click the synchronize button to push all of the edits that I've made back to the server, and now you can see the data has been pushed back to the server. So the ability to persist data and edits to local storage is critical and central to building disconnected applications. So there are a number of event handlers that fire when data is stored into local storage, and I'd like to now go through discussion of those event handlers. Actually, before discussing the event handlers, we'd also like to discuss the persistence of variables. So we've shown how the edits are persisted, but what I'd like to also point out is that your variables are also persisted. So let's go here and edit that data now. So we're going to go there and make that edit, and then we'll go there and edit these two values, and then we'll go to this record over here and we'll edit the value of USA and John Steele. But on this particular row we will not click the save button to persist these edits to the list. And now what we're going to do is exit the application and then restart the application. So when we restart the application, we can see that the edits that were saved for row 1 have been restored, the edits for row 2 have been restored, and then the edits for row 3 here have also been restored. And now when I tapped off the row, those edits were committed to the data. So let's take a look at that one more time. Let's go over to this row over there and make an edit, and then make an edit. So you can see now we've made 2 edits, but we haven't yet clicked the save button. Now we're going to go back and then come back in, and you can see that the 2 edits that we made are restored. And now I can go ahead and click the save button and push the data back into the list. So not only are edits to the row data itself persisted, but also all edits to variables on the UX component are also persisted to local storage. So let's go back now to design mode and go to the client side events here, and we can see that if we just filter on storage, we can see that there are various events here that fire. So here, this event here on persist control values to local storage, this is an event that fires every time the value of any of the controls on the UX component are saved to local storage. So this event will fire every time any variable in the UX component is edited before the data is actually saved into local storage. And what you can use this event for is to actually add additional data inside the user data property. So you would set e.userdata to some other value that you wanted. So that lets you persist additional information into local storage at the same time that variables are persisted. So this fires before the data is stored into local storage. This fires after variables are saved into local storage. This event fires after data is restored, after variables are restored from local storage. This event here, the on local storage encryption, fires before data is stored into local storage, and it allows you to add your own encryption routines to the data that is stored in local storage. So let's pause now and pick this up in the next video. So we're continuing our discussion on persisting data and variables to local storage, and then lastly the local storage decryption fires when the data that is stored in local storage is restored, and this allows you to decrypt the data using any routine that you want. If you previously had encrypted it. So now this is discussing events that fire when variables are persisted to local storage, but there are also events that fire when the data in the list itself is persisted to local storage, and those events are defined at the list level. So let's go back now to the list and then open up list properties and then go over to the events here. So we'll click on list events, and then let's just filter on storage, and you can see that there are events here that fire when the list itself is persisted to local storage. This is before it's persisted to local storage. This is after it's restored from local storage. And this event here fires if you had a search component and the search and the list was configured to delay populate until there was an active search, and if the user typed in search criteria that resulted in too large a data set being retrieved from the server to the client, an event would fire here telling you that the result set that was returned from the server was too large to fit into local storage, and this would allow you to then put up some UI that told the user that they needed to enter more restrictive search criteria. So what we've shown in this video here is how the list data itself and also the variables that are used in the UX component, the control values, are persisted to local storage so that the application will continue to work if it's terminated and then restarted before any data has been synchronized back to the server. So the ability to persist the list data to local storage is a central element of building disconnected applications. Thanks very much for watching.